Hi, my name is Fletcher Wimbush. I'm the CEO of Discover, a performance hiring platform. One of my favorite features within the platform are our 30 plus different assessments that we offer our clients. Why do we have so many different assessments? Well, that's important because you need different assessments to accomplish different types of measurements. I think it's one of the common myths or challenges or mistakes that people make is that they select one simple 5-minute personality assessment and they think that tells them everything they need to know about the candidate. So it's a very challenging situation when we put too much weight on a singular component of measurement on a single person. I always equate assessments to what is it we want to know about candidates, right? So whether we're interviewing them, checking the references, doing a working interview, or actually having them complete an assessment test or a skill or aptitude test, we're trying to uncover really three main things. Our ultimate goal is to predict who's going to be an A player, who's going to be successful. But we're looking at three big areas. One is their behaviors. Are their behaviors, which most people refer to as personality fit, in alignment with the activities that they're going to be doing on the job? And this is most important. I think there's another kind of big myth here is a lot of people think personality is about predicting on the job success. It's actually a better predictor of failure. So if you hire an introvert to do cold calling and sales, they're going to hate it. They're going to quit. So it's a better predictor of that factor than it is that you hired the extrovert to do sales. Now, it does offer some predictive validity typically that if you hire an extrovert, they're going to like doing the sales-oriented activities, and they will be typically better than the non-extrovert. The real predictors in predicting from a performance perspective come from aptitude. So aptitude is a wide and varying topic here. And this is where getting into different types of assessments and having a lot of the right options to be measuring this for, depending on the role that you're looking to hire for, becomes so important. So a couple of the big ones. So cognitive ability is hands down the best predictor of on-the-job performance. I don't care whether you're a barista at Starbucks making lattes, the smarter, more higher cognitive ability barista is going to be better at that. They're going to learn, they're going to adapt, they're going to solve problems. They're just going to be better. Now, the higher up the job chain you go, and the more sophisticated the job is, the more and more important that cognitive ability becomes, right? There's lots of different types of cognitive tests out there and assessments. We offer half a dozen or more. And we want to just begin to position those depending on the type of the role, type of cognitive ability that we want to measure. And there are many others out there in the market that you can investigate. And so we want to understand the role. We want to do that job analysis, job description, candidate scorecard to make sure that we're matching the right assessments to the things that matter and help us predict on the job success. Cognitive ability, again, is one of the best, but one of the things that I think, and many experts agree here, is emotional intelligence, people skills, communication skills, emotional control, right? So emotional intelligence maybe simply is understanding your own emotional state and status and how that affects how you're feeling and acting. Secondarily is being able to perceive and understand that in others. And third, be able to use that to create action with yourself and others to change somebody's actions or behaviors through that emotional control, right? Emotional intelligence is most often measured in a behavioral assessment. We offer a number of behavioral assessments that help touch in many of those areas. But where most people forget to look is some of these skill sets, some of these attributes are learned. Like we do develop emotional intelligence. We develop people skills. We develop communication skills. We can learn and understand how to improve our emotional intelligence just like anything else. So that's where a great applied emotional intelligence assessment, which is an aptitude style assessment, becomes so important. So typically I'm pairing a behavioral assessment along with a core aptitude assessment that's covering cognitive ability, applied emotional intelligence, aptitude. So I'm getting emotional intelligence both in the behavioral assessment and on the aptitude assessment. Third, or the other big part of aptitude that's just kind of wide and varying, is specific skill sets, math, AutoCAD, even sales knowledge, leadership ability. So you can go on, the list goes on and on. So anything that is a specific skill is a form of aptitude. So that's where you begin to bring in skill assessments. And in some cases where the tasks are more complicated, that's where we really rely on working interviews to create more of a work simulation type of a situation. And so it can be tricky to measure every single particular skill set. Some we can test for, some we need to use more creative, custom type solutions like working interviews. But at the end of the day, we're measuring aptitude and behaviors. And when we're interviewing people and checking their references, we're doing the same thing, right? We're trying to uncover whether this person's going to be behavioral fit for the job. We're trying to make sure that they've got the right aptitude and skills and abilities to be highly effective in the job. And we're typically doing that by evaluating references and previous experiences. And it can be really difficult to do. So this is, again, where the power of assessments come in. This kind of creates an objective measurement that might help point us in a direction or one or another to uncover where maybe we missed the boat, right? Maybe we didn't see something from the interview because of our own kind of interview bias, right? As interviewers, we're all biased in some ways or another. Assessments aren't, well, a good assessment's not biased. We're going to talk about that in a second. So it's this kind of objective spotlight that you can put on the individual that can then point you in a direction where you can begin to further investigate whether that is a real concern or not a concern, but it really forces you to find overwhelming evidence that the person does have the right behaviors or does have the right aptitude or skill sets should you have used an assessment that is drawing out a concern within an individual. And so you mentioned, you're probably catching the drift here, that I'm not saying that we're going to use assessments as the end-all be-all. We're not using it as the final judge and jury. It's just part of that healthy hiring process and habit, sort of a check and a balance to our own challenges that we have when it comes to evaluating other people. Due to those bias, communication issues, lack of training and experience, frankly, is one of the biggest reasons why we are such poor judges of people when we are interviewing, right? Because nobody's trained to do these things. So those are the big predictors of effectiveness or lack of effectiveness. But the holy grail, in my opinion, of all of this is culture fit. Does this person have the right attitude and beliefs to fit our culture? Or are they more of a problem generator, or worse, a talented terror? Those are the ones that are really good. They're highly effective, good aptitude, right behavior fit, gets the job done, but complete nightmare to work with. We've all, unfortunately, had to deal with these types of people. You see it a lot in sales roles, in highly technical roles, like engineers or software people. These tend to be very, very difficult people to deal with, and they might be good at their job, but they're so toxic, they poison the well, they drive away other A players, they make life miserable for everybody else, they drive their bosses crazy, and they're very difficult to fire, and often will have a retaliatory type of behavior even when you get to disciplining them. So they become defensive, combative, argumentative, all of these things. So we measure this by measuring people's attitudes and integrity. It helps you predict whether they're going to be a good culture fit, a good talented team player, or are they going to be that problem generator or that talented team player or talented terror, as we like to call it. So those are the three components, right? We are doing that in the interview. We are looking for behavioral matches. We're looking for aptitude skill matches. And we are looking to make sure that these people will fit our culture. Assessments can be really, really great in doing that. Definitely want to choose assessments, try out assessments that match your scorecard as it relates to those behaviors, aptitudes, and culture fits. and make sure that you're getting the right lineup that's best aligned with what you're trying to predict. A couple other things about assessments is we want to make sure that they're valid. So does, contextually valid, let's call that content validity, construct validity. Is it reliable? Is it measuring things in a reliable way? Is it measuring what it thinks it actually says it's measuring, right? And then probably in most circles, especially from the HR compliance side, is it causing some sort of adverse impact? Look, if it's not causing an adverse impact, which in other words, is it discriminating against people of color, different backgrounds, religions, things like that, all the normal EEOC guideline stuff, as long as it's not doing that, it's actually going to make your hiring process more inclusive. So obviously, you want to use a tool that's going to help you be more inclusive of people of different backgrounds, cultures, skin colors, things like that, than one that is going to be exclusive of those things. Especially if you have a diversity, equity, inclusion program, having the right assessment can actually help you become more inclusive, because these are people that you may not have ever looked at. You might have overlooked their resume or whatever it is based on where they live or their name or their picture on their resume. Like, let's forget about all that stuff. An assessment can't see that as long as it is not provide. It is definitely not providing that adverse impact. So if it's not, then it's actually helping you do the opposite and becoming more inclusive. And so that's one of the great things about our tools. They don't provide that. They don't cause that adverse impact. When used with a healthy hiring process that we talk a lot about in these videos, those 5 steps, that structured power interview, obviously the assessments, the in-depth career history interview, and the working interview and reference checks from previous direct supervisors. When you use those 5 things in combination, assessments can aid, that whole combination can aid you in predicting on-the-job success for up to 90%, which is ridiculously great considering most people are predicting it sub 50% of the time, right? So huge increases and improvements in the quality of hires that you have when you're using assessments appropriately in the hiring process in conjunction with the other healthy hiring processes and steps, right? And ultimately, the beauty of assessments is it helps us when we are learning to get better at interviewing, and it helps us spotlight things that we might not have otherwise seen. So I think that gives you a pretty good overview of the different types of assessments out there. So behavioral, cultural, aptitude, skill-based assessments, a little bit about what you want to look out for in assessments. We want them to be valid, so contextually valid. We want them to be reliable, and we want them to not cause a adverse impact. And ultimately, when you have those 3 things using a healthy process, it helps you predict the outcome of this person's future performance. And that's the holy grail that we're all looking for. Hey, if this was helpful, if you enjoyed this video, I would encourage you to hit subscribe, like, share, comment. Lots of questions around assessments these days. Happy to have a conversation with you about that. And we'll see you in our next videos.